to Simpler. We are three pastors, husbands, and fathers on a journey to make life simpler by holding Jesus as the core for every belief and practice. This journey has shaped us to be more like Christ, freed us from the shame of failure, and encouraged us to a deeper love of our Lord and God. We invite you to join us in the discussions that have shaped and continue to shape our lives.
I'm down on a Bitcoin investment right now because have you ever heard the phrase "buy the rumor, sell the news"? Mm-hmm. I bought the rumor.
Yep.
And the news hasn't happened yet and so it's like down anyway. So I did the right thing, and then it just was the wrong timing. Yeah. Right. So, but what I could do right now,
I haven't ever had the right timing in any of my investments. Not once.
We just hold for a long time and you got the right timing. But there's a tax strategy where it's called tax loss harvesting, where I could sell my Bitcoin at a loss. Mm-hmm. And I'm basically getting a lower entry point. I'm pushing the taxes down the line, in essence, deferring the taxes. But I could take, if I thought I was going to have some taxes, a bunch of taxes owed for 2026, I could take the loss this year to
defray some of that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's like, I don't have any of that really figured out how I want to do it yet, but it's an interesting concept. And you know me, I love strategizing with that stuff.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know. It's with the market, like being so volatile right now, the stock market, I'm like, man, I wish I had money to just throw in some different things. There's some different things that I really am interested in.
That's what's killing me is like, I didn't make the wrong investment.
Sure.
But I could have 35 to 40% more right now.
If you had waited a little bit longer to buy it. Yeah. But you're still in a good spot for when it does what you know it's going to do.
It was a long-term investment anyways.
Yeah. Like you were in it you had a game plan going in.
Yeah. It wasn't the wrong move. It just sucks that and it's, to your point, always happens.
I know.
It's the exact wrong timing of like, again, it doesn't matter in the long run. It just means I'm not going to make as much, but
that's another saying, right? In the market, in the investment world,
timing.
Like time in rather than timing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So time
and
in the market.
Honestly, I wish more people would stop gambling with their investments.
Yeah.
And just like pick some investments and do it. Like I'm a fan of safe stuff. Just max out your Roth every year if you can.
Sure.
Buy some index funds. Like just buy some safe stuff and keep it.
Well, and I think, look, let's just get into the topic. Does that work for you?
Sounds great.
So the topic this week is money evil?
Yes. I'm just kidding.
So I think a lot of people wrongly quote 1 Timothy 6:10 as the love of money is the root of evil.
Instead of a root.
Yeah, instead of the love of money, or actually they most often misquote it, money is the root of evil. But there's a couple of modifiers.
Yes.
The love of money is a root of all kinds of evils.
Yes.
And so money itself is not the source of all evil. And then the love of money is the problem. And it is not even the love of money isn't the source of all kinds of all evil. It is the source of all kinds of evil.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because money can be, I mean, it's a tool. It's used. People like to point out, I don't know how I feel about it. It's true, I guess. So I'm indifferent to that fact. But people like to point out that Jesus talked more about money than he did heaven or hell. Like people will make those comments. And maybe so. I don't think that money is more valuable than the gospel, right? And so like when people are like, well, he talks a lot about money. Well, yeah, but he came to die and to deal with sin and to address sin and death. And so like, that's still the emphasis. But it is interesting how I remember getting my first job, my first salary, like paycheck job, my first paycheck job at a Chick-fil-A when I was 15. And my dad was really adamant, like, you don't tell people how much money you make. You don't tell people what's on your paycheck. You don't tell people what you're getting paid hourly. Like, it was just the culture I grew up in.
And now in retrospect, we know why he did that.
Yeah. But you just don't talk about it, like it's not anything you ever bring up. And my parents, we weren't well off. We were better off by the time I was in high school, but growing up when I was a kid, we weren't well off. But my dad made enough that he could have invested $50 a month or $100 a month. They just didn't, right? And so I do have one memory of my dad like selling some company stock he got one time. And like we needed it to survive kind of thing. But what I was taught about money growing up is don't go into debt. That's what I was taught. And which is
great advice.
Good advice, really good advice. Yeah. But it's interesting how I can see why people think that money is a problem. So money is still the number one reason people give for divorce, money disputes. If you're going to see a pastor in the news for anything, it's either going to be sexual indiscretions or monetary indiscretions.
Yep.
When you have big churches that are handling, like I remember hearing about a pastor 2 weeks ago. He's at some mega church and he gets paid something like, I don't know, $10 million a year, but he also has this like massive house and this like, basically he was funding his side businesses with this extra like.
Oh, it wasn't the church. Like he was doing something funny with the money.
Yes. So he was working the books where his $10 million salary was basically $30 million because of just, he was tweaking things. Oh yeah, this is for the church, and like was buying cars and different stuff.
Got it.
And so like when you hear about those kinds of things, right? Like people, I can see why people go, oh, money's evil. Or I've had really good friends who have been on the mission field for a few years and they'll come back to the States and they're like, man, everybody here is so concerned with money. And they feel like, and they'll say, you know, we in the United States are richer than 95% of the world. And that's true, but it's also different culturally. Because like when I was in India and in the villages of India, the average annual income in the villages is $500 a year. And they're making it.
I was gonna say the cost of living is also a lot less in those places.
And they have little homes or they're mud with, like, you could go, I mean, I couldn't go do that here. I couldn't go pick just some random spot in Tom Green County, make a mud house and just plant myself there and live there.
To the point, people that are begging on the streets make more than $500 a year.
Oh yeah.
A lot of them make more than $500 a month.
Yeah. I was going to say that there was one guy that I talked to a few years back and he was like making 100, 150 a day. And so, so it's one of those things that like, apples and oranges, you know, or apples and asparagus.
I think it's to your point. It's to your point about when someone says Jesus talks more about money than heaven and hell.
Yeah.
I think they've missed the point.
Yes.
I think the reason, this is my thought, I think the reason Jesus talks more about money is because it's a gospel-centered mindset that he's trying to get people into.
Sure.
And money is a thing, I think that does keep people from that.
Sure.
I mean, the rich young ruler.
Yeah. It's hard for the rich to enter the kingdom of heaven.
I think there's a perspective that if I have what I need here, I don't need somebody else's help.
Sure.
And I think that's what Jesus is trying, is what I think. There must have been a Jewish perspective culturally that was hung up on money to some degree because he talks about it.
We know the Pharisees were.
For sure.
Yeah.
And how does that not then filter down to everybody else, right? These are the teachers, or some of the teachers. So I think that the point people are missing is that the reason Jesus talks about money so much is because he's acknowledging that it's the thing that keeps people from seeing the gospel. It is a thing, not the thing. It is a thing that keeps us from having a kingdom perspective, or someone who's not a believer from recognizing that their worth can be found in Jesus and not stuff here and now.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he talks about it so much, which I think is actually telling for this conversation is I don't think that that's changed in people's hearts.
Yes, agreed.
There is something about money that draws us in a way that is, I don't, again, this is my opinion. I don't think it's as strong as sex, but I think it's close.
Oh, interesting.
And I only say that because I think that if you have cultures where there's nothing, sex is still the draw, right? And so, and I might be wrong. Maybe there's.
I would argue the other way.
Maybe there's still a draw for wealth. I'm just saying, like, it's the thing. I would bet that if you had a bunch of people, this is like a stupid example, on a plane crash on a deserted island, they're going to act a little bit more, from a monetary perspective, they're going to act a little bit more communal, at least at first, just providing, like, they got to make sure everybody has their own needs. But the one thing it's not going to change is their sexual desires.
Sure.
Monetary policy might change.
Yeah.
It's like when people show you the picture of Bill Clinton sitting at his desk and the quote is like, most kids don't know that there's two people in this picture.
Yeah.
Like, so
yeah.
That kind of joke has probably been forever. So I could be wrong. Let's say this. They're pretty close.
They're very close.
Whichever one's in front, they're close.
I was going to say that, like, a lot of, like, the sex trade, legal or illegal, a lot of the sex trade is a monetary position. Like they're leveraging the sex for the monetary thing.
Yeah, and maybe why I lean the way I do is because I actually think that's more about power than it is about money.
Yeah.
So you could add that. Anyways, point being, I think that
money and sex.
It's a big draw.
Yeah.
Away from, let's call it for believers.
Yes.
It's a big draw away from having a kingdom mindset.
Yeah, and I think it's really smart to recognize that that money can be seductive. So two things. Two things. One, this is from Luke 12, beginning in verse 13. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." And he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or an arbiter over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentiful. And he thought to himself, what will I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops. And he said, I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And there I will store all my grain and all my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry." That's a really interesting phrase, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to them, "Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things that you have prepared, whose will they be? So it is for those who lay up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God." So here's somebody who had a good year in their crops, and they're like, "I don't have enough here. I don't have enough room to store all the great blessings that I have. I'll build bigger barns, bigger houses." And the idea being that he values that more than he does the things of God, right? And the eat, drink, and be merry. So it's a quote from the Old Testament. It's when Paul quotes it in 1 Corinthians 15, but I can't remember where it's quoted from. And so it's a text in the Old Testament where the wicked people are rebelling against God, and they say, God tells them, it's Isaiah 22, and God tells them, "Hey, repent or I'm going to destroy you." And they're like, "Oh, we're going to die tomorrow, so let's just eat, drink, and be merry." So that's the callous attitude of, I'm indifferent to God's correction of me.
So the correlation is people who are about to be judged.
Yep. And then in 1 Corinthians 15 is where Paul quotes it, and he says, if Christ isn't raised from the dead, then he goes, you might as well eat, drink, and be merry. So the idea is, if there is no God, if there's nothing after this, do whatever you want. So this guy saying, I have ample goods, eat, drink, and be merry, it's a connected piece to, I have nothing to do with God. I have no interest in God.
Don't need God.
Yeah, because look, I'm taken care of. And so I do think that there's a danger there.
Yes.
So if you think about Matthew 13, you have the parable of the 4 soils, and the third soil is the seed that fell on the thorny ground. And it says the thorny ground, the thorns grew up and choked out the plant, so it did not produce fruit. And it said, that is the deceitfulness of wealth and the worries of this world. And so we see throughout the scripture that it is possible for people to be so enamored with wealth that they miss God.
Yes.
That they miss the gospel. Because to your point, you said it a moment ago, if I have everything I need, then why am I looking for a savior? If I have well, here's another thought. I just finished reading through Deuteronomy. In Deuteronomy 8, God, through Moses, about 60 days before they go into the promised land, warns the people, be careful that when you get into the promised land and you have vineyards that you didn't plant and houses that you didn't build and crops that you didn't sow, be careful when you have everything you need that you don't turn away from me. And what do?
Turn away.
Yeah. And same thing with King Rehoboam, the son of Solomon. For the first 3 years, he sought God. And then it said, and when the kingdom was firmly established in his hand, when he had received his royal power, then he forsook God. So it is something, I don't think that we can say money is evil, but I do think that there are some good warnings that come along with how we approach money as the believers.
Wow. The chair just broke.
Nice.
Yeah. I think that, all right, tell me if you feel okay about this. A lot of those examples are pre-Jesus or outside of faith in Jesus.
Yes.
Sorry, not pre-Jesus. Like in a person's life, I mean, like before they put faith in Jesus is what I meant by
before they put faith in Jesus, people who are apart from God or denying God. Yeah.
I don't think the draw is different after putting faith in Jesus. What I mean is we have been set free from slavery to sin.
Yep. I
think that perspective is a sin perspective, if you will.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the temptation of it is gone.
Sure.
I don't think that it puts us in the same camp of eat, drink, and be merry, because there's no, it doesn't seem like there's a context of that idea of go eat, drink, and be merry outside are inside of faith.
No.
Right? So
it's an indifference to God.
We would never tell a Christian, someone who's put faith in Jesus, just go eat, drink, and be merry. If you ever hear Ryan or me or Pierce, side note, Pierce and Hannah just had a baby. Forgot to intro this.
Yeah, a few days ago.
The reason Pierce is not here today is because they just had a baby and we need to record an episode for tomorrow. Yeah. We wouldn't, if you hear one of us say that to you, that probably means we're saying like, you have no interest in Jesus. We're kind of done with you. You know what I mean? Like,
just go eat, that's not where I thought you were going when you started that sentence. I thought you were going to say, if we ever say that, then like just put us out to pasture.
No. If we say that to you, that just means just know we've said like that we're not going to keep.
Yeah.
But I don't think. Here's what I'm saying. I don't think that the Timothy thought of the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that I'm saying that I don't think the draw towards that perspective of money being king, money being God, I don't think that we are void of that as people who've put faith in Jesus. Does that make sense? We're not slave to that any longer.
Yeah.
I think it's all right. Let me give you this thought to add into this. I've screwed up. I've been having this argument in my head for like 20 years. I just realized I'm an idiot. I shouldn't be having this argument in my head for the last 20 years of what's the best way to gain wealth. And I've been having that argument based on debt.
Mm-hmm.
No question. The fastest way to gain wealth is with somebody else's money.
Mm-hmm.
No question.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the fastest way to lose money is with somebody else's money.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're seeing that now. I think the stat I saw recently was like that more men bet on sports now than invest. There's more there's more betting on sports than investing amongst men, which I kind of understand the accessibility of it now. Oh my gosh. Whoever's texting me during the podcast, stop texting me. I'm going to blow you up after this is over. Like, if you text me on a Monday, just know that I'm going to just jack with you afterwards. I'm going to text you like 20 times tomorrow. Anyway, sorry. So here's the problem. I've been having this argument in my head, not recognizing that there's this wisdom across the Old Testament, specifically the wisdom books, a lot in Proverbs about debt and how like the position it puts you in life.
Sure.
You're slave to the lender.
Yep.
There's all these things about slavery. And I think the problem for me has been, I've been arguing about how to gain wealth and not recognizing that the scripture is actually speaking to something that doesn't have to do with wealth, but has to do with peace.
Mm-hmm.
Has to do with a contentment in life that's not based on my wealth, but based on not owing anybody anything.
Yes.
And I think that's where so here's what I'm saying. In the conversation of, I don't think we're void of that as believers, of the draw towards money. I think a lot of us, including me up until last week, when I'm like, you're an idiot, about this conversation of building wealth, are so caught up with gaining wealth that we forget that there's something bigger than wealth.
Yes.
And that is contentment and peace in Jesus.
Yes.
And I'm not saying stop pursuing wealth. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not saying wealth in terms of riches. I'm saying Proverbs also says, we've talked about it recently, leave an inheritance to your children's children. It talks about how the ant stores up so that it has some stored up. There's this wisdom for wealth building as well in the same wisdom books.
The person who's diligent, their barns are full, their storehouses are full. The sluggard is laying on his bed and doesn't have anything to eat. That
is what I mean by wealth. I'm not talking about like riches. I'm not talking about the parable of the dude who had a good harvest and wants to build bigger barns. Like that's not what I'm talking about by wealth building. But I think the temptation for us is so strong, and we're not recognizing it for money. It's so strong towards money that we get caught up in this argument of what's the best way to build wealth, not recognizing that needs to be like a little teeny tiny small conversation to the side. And what needs to be the core is a kingdom mindset of how can I find peace and contentment in Jesus in every aspect of my life? And then how can that play out in terms of people seeing the gospel alive in me? Because if I'm in the same rat race everybody else is, I don't look any different.
Yeah, sure.
And that's not gospel. That's not representing Jesus well.
No.
I don't mind wealth.
No.
But if in the midst of wealth, if people don't see Jesus in me, then what's the point?
Yeah. Well, it's Acts 4 and 5 that the believers who were financially in a blessed position helped to meet the needs of those who weren't.
Yes.
And it's not that the Bible doesn't condemn them for being rich, the Bible like shows, it kind of commends them for the way that they cared for the saints, right? And what's really interesting is people will talk a lot about, hold on one second here, let me pull it up because I can't type at the same time. But people will talk a lot about this verse in 1 Timothy 6 and about wealth. And so he talks about here, let me see. Those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmless desires, and plunge people into ruin and destruction. So there again, it's the desire, right? Like you're pursuing after the riches, not being unwise.
Yep.
Like there's a difference between, hey, I'm being wise, I'm storing up for my kids and for my grandkids, I'm just taking care of the needs of those who are around me, I'm being like an ant, I'm not being the sluggard, I'm being diligent with my farms, I'm being diligent with my herds. One of my favorite texts, I think this is me, just me saying this, I think a really clear text about investing is Proverbs 23 through 27, which says, know well the condition of your flocks, give attention to your herds, for riches won't last forever. And does a crown endure to all generations? So when the grass is gone and the new growth appears and the vegetation of the mountains is gathered, the lambs will provide your clothing, the goat will be the price of a field, you will have enough goat's milk for your food, the food of your household, and the maintenance of your girls. So take care of your herd so that when everything else fails, now your herd can take care of you. But even in 1 Timothy 6, Paul ends it this way: as for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be arrogant and not to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but instead on God, who provides us richly with everything to enjoy. Yep. To do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, storing up treasures for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they can take hold of that which is truly life. So he doesn't condemn them for being rich. He just says, don't let your focus be on the riches. Let your focus be on God. Seek to be kind, seek to be generous, seek to take care of the needs of other people.
There's that's in this, where is that?
1 Timothy 6, beginning in verse 17.
Okay, I was like, where?
But to your point, these are people, the only people who can behave that way, that kind of generous spirit, are people who are content in God. Because if you're content in your money and you start seeing your money go out to help these needs and stuff, that's going to make you really uncomfortable.
That's it.
Yeah.
I think you can judge your heart based on how you respond to tough times with money.
Yeah.
This is the conversation. I mean, we're being transparent about this.
Yeah, of course.
This is the conversation you and I have been having for 20 years.
Yeah.
Why are we
it
so
finally has shifted for us a little bit?
Yeah, I wish I could say it was gone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But like, why? I have some thoughts on why.
Yeah.
But for me personally, but like, it shows my heart when times get tough financially, it shows my heart that I'm like, my hope isn't set in Jesus and finances. And that is, I think, exemplifying this part of my life.
Say that again, when times get hard.
It's showing that my hope isn't completely set in Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I am uncomfortable. It's not strong enough of a word. I'm fine with people being uncomfortable when financial times are hard.
Yes.
Like when it's tough financially, I can't talk today. When it's tough financially, it's hard.
Yes. Agreed.
So I'm not saying uncomfortability. What I'm saying is like, why am I like fretting?
Yeah.
Why am I worrying?
Yeah.
I think that might be the better word for it. Why am I anxious?
Sure. Back to Matthew 6, the Gentiles seek after these things. Why are you worried about what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, what you're going to wear?
Right. So I also think part of that is, there's a sense, this hasn't been me, but I think there's a sense in a lot of people where they want the wealth now.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, instead of storing up, like taking care of your flock or storing up like the ant, they're making the big bet. I mean, just being completely honest, part of what's been happening in crypto the last few months is because all these idiots are doing leveraged trades. They're doing like this crazy leverage, trying to make quick money, and the market's just going up and down and up and down and up and down. It's because these idiots are betting. I mean, I don't know if you've seen these posts. Like, people are losing like hundreds of millions of dollars, like crazy. These rich people, because they're doing these leveraged trades. Like, stupid. It's not good for the market ever, right?
Yeah.
I think people want it now. So instead of saying, you know what, I'm content with where I'm at, but I'm going to start saving for the future, like making the smart investment for the future. To your point earlier about your dad, well, okay, let's take your dad out of it. You've even said early on in ministry when you were like making nothing.
Yeah.
Like when you were literally just making enough to pay for an apartment and some food and car insurance. You didn't have to pay for a car. Someone had given you a car.
Yeah.
I mean, you were making like nothing.
Yeah. the first year I did $12,000 in ministry total.
Right. Yeah. $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you've said if someone had taught you about investing early on,
Sure.
at that point, you would have found some way to even like make an extra $50 a month to start putting it towards something, because the mindset is, I want to be wise with what I have.
Yes.
And instead of trying to get rich, you're saying, I'm trying to store wealth.
Well, even in those first few years, like, because all I was ever taught was savings. You put stuff in savings. You put 20% in savings. You put 20% in savings. So even those first few years,
Which is a terrible idea.
yeah, it is. I managed to put aside in my first 5 years of ministry something like 10 grand in savings.
Oh my gosh. Getting like 0 point
Nothing.
something.
Like it
percent.
didn't do me any good. And then whenever an emergency would come up, I would spend that money and it hadn't earned me anything.
Right.
I hadn't done anything
Right.
for me. Yeah.
So I actually really like Ramsey's perspective on that.
Yeah.
I like that he says, put aside $1,000 in an emergency fund. Like that's
Yep.
completely accessible right now.
Yep.
And then pay off your debt. And you didn't have any debt. So he would have said next step is
Invest that.
store. Well, no, he would have said store up 3 to 6 months
Oh yeah.
of an emergency fund. That way, this is if the
Yeah.
this is taking care of your herd.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
If the everything crashes, you have, what does he say, a lamp or a lamb
Yeah.
pays for a field. Like
Yeah.
you have what you need.
Price of a field.
I
Yep.
think that's a wise way to go.
Sure.
And so I think that's what a lot of people are not doing. They're like, I just want to have it now.
Yeah.
And so what you end up seeing, and this drives me nuts, is you end up seeing people who like make an okay amount of money, like
Yeah.
make a decent salary, but they're so over leveraged in debt because they have to have the stuff now
yeah.
that this is what I'm saying. Like
I just realized that maybe one of the reasons people make the quote, maybe it's just because they're ignorant about the quote in 1 Timothy, but maybe one of the reasons people say money is the root of all evil is because then it makes money bad and not them bad. Because
it's a great point.
the text says the love of money.
It's not the money's fault.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Yes.
So like,
it's never been the money's fault.
No,
money is not in and of itself evil.
no, it's just a tool. And
money
so-
has changed through the centuries.
and
What
if
is
you
money?
love
is
money
different.
too much, you're a tool.
Yes, absolutely. I'm such a tool.
But Proverbs 13:11, you said this a minute ago and it made me think of this, but Proverbs 13:11, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. It's the ant. It's you're storing it up little by little, like be wise. But to your point, the people who are chasing it right now, who are like, I got to get it right now, those people put themselves in jeopardy,
Yes.
like needlessly.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I think I don't understand why we ignore the wisdom of the scripture in regards to money.
Yeah.
I think we are agreeing on this, that money in and of itself is not evil.
No.
It is the love of money.
It's the person who loves it. Yeah.
The trouble comes in, let's say someone who hasn't put their faith in Jesus, the more wealth they have, the harder it is for them to look for a savior.
Yeah.
Because they don't need anybody, right?
Yeah.
So that's an example of what the love of money can do. Someone who's put their faith in Jesus, there's a sense where it can become for us something that shifts us away from putting our hope and trust in Jesus. I think that Philippians 3, when Paul says, I consider everything a loss compared to the surpassing greatness of knowing Jesus Christ my Lord, he's not just talking about the understanding he had from being the best of the Jews. He's literally saying everything. I think people forget that the implication seems to be that Paul had wealth.
Yeah.
You know, like
Seemed to be okay.
I mean, like he says, I've known what it is to have a lot and to have a little. I
Right.
don't think the little was when he was like the best of the best in Israel.
Right.
I don't know that.
Probably
I'm not a
not.
historian, but like
Yeah.
the assumption is
he
no.
was the
So,
chief Pharisee. He was one of the head guys.
there's
Yeah.
no way this dude's, I mean,
Well, and because what we know about the Pharisees and how they were crooks and stuff, like he was probably that guy too.
he was
Yeah.
taking his $10 million salary and making
Yeah.
it into $30 million.
Yeah.
But I think there's a sense people forget that, like when Paul says in Philippians 3, I consider everything a loss, he's not just talking about what he learned from the scriptures prior to Jesus. He's saying everything.
All of his accolades, everything that he's
This
had.
is the perspective shift. Is he's saying even all the stuff I had materially means nothing compared to the surpassing greatness of knowing Jesus. I'm just being honest. I don't know that many Christians who have that perspective.
Right. Well,
Exemplified by how much debt they have.
they accrue, over and over and over again.
And I'm not talking about. I'm happy to have the debate, and I'm not talking about.
good debt,
I'm not
bad
talking
debt.
about investment debt. I'm not talking about owning a whole bunch of rental properties that are paying for themselves. I'm talking about the person who has a giant car loan, who has a bunch of credit card debt. I'm talking about consumer debt because you're spending.
They're underwater.
You're spending trying to fulfill some kind of contentment and joy that you're not finding in Jesus. That's my issue.
Yeah, learning to be content in all things.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's Philippians 4, right? Content in all things. So I would argue that most of our listeners, if not all of them, have at some point heard the verse, the name of the Lord is a strong tower, the righteous run into it and are safe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things that no one ever talks about. So this is
that?
It's Proverbs 18:10. You're going to love this. Proverbs 18:10. The name of the Lord is a strong tower, the righteous runs into it and is safe. Proverbs 18:11. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, and like a high wall in his imagination. Before destruction, a man's heart is haughty, and humility comes before honor. So for the righteous,
it's a contrast.
Yeah, for the righteous, they run into the things of the Lord. The fool, in his own imagination, believes his wealth is his safety. And so like you can't do that. You can't be like, oh, I'm content in the Lord, but I need this money to be able to be safe and secure and okay. Like it can't be that. Money is useful. It's helpful. Use it wisely. Use it well. But this idea that it has to be your security, you're in trouble if you're viewing wealth as your security.
Maybe a helpful perspective shift is to change people's perspective of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
My wealth in Jesus is greater than anything else this world could ever offer in terms of wealth.
Yeah.
If that's my perspective.
Every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places, Ephesians 1, right?
I've been given it all.
Yep.
We've even been given an inheritance in the kingdom.
Yep.
And so what we're actually—
heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, Romans 8.
So what we're actually saying is that has less value than the things of the earth, the temporary, that will go away. You read something a few weeks ago, I forget what text it was.
Psalm 49.
About you put your name on a field and then people rename it later, like, which I love. I love it, right?
Yeah.
People's perspective of wealth needs to change.
Yeah, because I think what people do is they see, look, the Bible has a lot of negative examples about how people handle wealth, right? So I can see why people would get to 1 Timothy 6 and go, yeah, see, money is the root of all evil. I can see why they get there.
Sure.
But the Bible isn't telling us money is evil. The Bible is telling us when you find your satisfaction in money rather than in God, this is the result of it.
Yes.
And you're a fool and it's destitute and it's the weeds that choke out the love for Christ and you abandon the Lord and you turn away and you get the fields and you've moved into the promised land and you have everything you want and now you reject God and the kingdom's been firmly established in your hands. So you reject God and you won't turn to Christ because you're the rich young ruler and you don't want to sell everything you have and you thumb your nose at God, eat, drink, and be merry. Look at all the stuff I have. I don't need God. And so the problem is when people are pursuing a contentment in wealth rather than the riches they have in Christ. I don't know, honestly, I don't know if Christians can have that perspective. The perspective of, in all those examples I just gave, none of those are believers.
Yeah, but all the examples you gave were most of the gospel of proclaiming Jesus as the Messiah, trying to move them away from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think I think we would have to argue from the perspective of like the letters written to the churches.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true. Because Paul does say to Timothy that, the deceitfulness of wealth, like it's a lure.
Like I don't think that you'd have to make a case that the Gospels are written to like two Christians.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think it's still there.
Yeah,
I don't know
the temptation of it.
I think it's enough of a draw. This is totally my thought. I can't think of any text to back this up, so I could be wrong on this. But I think the draw is strong enough. Where you could have Christians dive into it. I actually don't think it's different than sex. I think that a Christian can have an affair.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't tell that person because they had an affair. I think that this is proving you've never put your faith in Jesus.
Yeah, sure.
That's where I feel like I'm at right now.
I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right on that. That there are people who love the Lord and then they get caught up in the contentment. Like if you have more, you tend to want to maintain more, right? And so
I think maybe this is what you're after. That's the case if your heart's not set on Jesus, if you don't have a kingdom mindset.
Yeah.
Listen, you and I know quite a few people who are doing well / wealthy, whatever someone wants to define that as, who have such a huge heart for the kingdom, who love Jesus so much that it shows in how they spend their money.
Absolutely.
And what they do. So like, I mean, we could give we can actually give way more positive examples of people we know.
Yes.
Who probably even listen to this podcast, who for years we've watched them be generous with a kingdom mindset with what they have.
Yeah.
And I think that those people are exemplifying that you can have
a lot of wealth
without having a mindset that's set on you. These people are exemplifying Mary and Martha.
Yes.
And Lazarus. They're exemplifying the ladies that were hosting these churches in the New Testament. That they're exemplifying the wealthy people that are in the New Testament that sell their fields to take care of the other people. They're exemplifying a heart for Jesus in the midst of having stuff. So I think that what I'm saying is it's possible. And I bet if you asked the people we know, if you asked the majority of those people, I bet they would say there's a temptation for me to be drawn towards finding my contentment in these things, but I'm consistently reminded that that's not where my contentment lies.
I wonder how many of those people were at some point in that place where they were like, oh, I gotta build my empire, until maybe they never were. Maybe by God's grace they weren't there. But like, it'd be interesting to know if at some point they were like, I'm building my empire, and then God broke them, and they're like, no, for the glory of God. Because some of the people that I know, and I think that you know too, and I'm thinking of my buddy Terry, who died a few years back out in East Texas. I don't know that he would have said those last 10 years of his life that he's tempted to put his value in money. I don't know when he had learned that lesson, but I think he had already learned that lesson so completely that like that dude was so free with just being a blessing to people. Does that make sense? Like it didn't bother him ever. Like he was just so free with it.
Yeah.
There wasn't a need in that church in East Texas that I was at for 2 years. There wasn't a need there that he wouldn't like, yeah, let's take care of it. But he was also so wise because like, I don't remember if it was you or Kirkland, but when I was living in East Texas, it was a rare time where my ministry, Higher Rock Ministries, had surplus at the end of the year. It was a very rare moment. And I don't remember if it was your ministry or Kirkland's that needed some help. And it was like $4,000.
Was that when you bought me tires?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was when I had nothing. So, and that wasn't Higher Rock. That was Michelle.
That was
and
you.
me.
Yeah, that's right.
But the ministry had some extra money, and one of you had a need, about $4,000. And I called Terry, who was on my board of directors at the time, and I said, hey, we have the need. We have the ability to meet it. Let's just meet it. And he goes, no. He goes, you can meet half of it. and he goes, because somebody else needs to be a blessing too. And he goes, if in a week the people who need to be a blessing aren't obeying God, we'll take care of the rest. But he goes, no, you can meet it all, but no, we want to let other people be a blessing in this need too. And like I don't know, he was just really generous. And
I don't know if we can like tie this to a text. I have a feeling that heart was probably a consistent heart when he didn't have much.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like money's almost like alcohol. Like somebody that gets drunk, you see who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's easy to hide it when you're not drunk, but as soon as you get drunk, it's like if someone's really mean, they're really mean when they're drunk. If someone's like kind of like happy-go-lucky, they're like real chipper when they're. You see what I'm saying? I think money's kind of in the same. This is my thought. Kind of in the same boat. Like if someone has a generous heart when they don't have much, they're definitely going to have a generous heart when they have a lot.
I like it. Yeah, because I would agree with that. I don't think that alcohol.
It's just my thought.
It changes your personality. I think it heightens or reveals your personality.
Yeah, it takes down all the filters you've put where people can see you for who you want them to see.
When I had my colonoscopy last April, it was my 50th birthday present, and David Boswell was with me back there, and he said that, I think it was when I woke up. He goes, "You remember what you said to me when you woke up?" I was like, "No," and he said, man, he goes, "You went off." And he goes, and you were like, "Listen, man, listen." He goes, "There are people in our church who just don't love Jesus enough." And he goes, and because I told him, I was like, "Don't give me this stuff for Sunday." And he goes, "Why?" He goes, "You worried about what you would say?" And I was like, "No, I would be like pointing at people saying, 'Quit cheating on your wife.'" And I would be telling them, "Love Jesus. You need to freaking love Jesus." And he said it tickled him. He goes, it was funny to hear one of my pastors still talking about Jesus when he's coming out of this.
Because it's what you care.
Procedure.
It's literally what you care about.
Yeah,
this is not a facade.
No. And so I think you're right that if people get money, what they do with that money shows what they care about.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about this probably before, but Matt Johnson, when he left San Angelo, headed to Florida, I think he gave the church like $250. It was something like that. I didn't know. You didn't know. Pierce said none of us knew how poor he was.
Right.
Like we should have been giving him $250 for his trip. But the heart of generosity when he had nothing has been reflected as he's done better in business, as he's built companies and he's doing better.
Yeah.
Same heart of generosity. So it's anecdotal to some degree, but like
he doesn't have a love for money. He has a love for God.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's around quite a few people that are very, very wealthy. What I never get from Matt is a sense like I want to be like them. What I get from Matt is he loves what he's doing and he's going to keep pursuing greatness in the businesses he's developing.
Absolutely.
And he says this to me. I've just seen him twice in the last like 6 weeks. Like he's like, man, I just want to have more so I can give more. Like that's literally his heart.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody, that might be a gift.
Yeah.
That might be.
I would agree that it is because Peter talks about that, I think in 1 Peter 4, that those who give generously. Like, if this is your gift.
I think it could be for him. Like what I'm saying is I don't think that's a pattern that everybody's going to follow, but I think the heart of it, what he's saying is these things don't give me contentment.
Right.
These things don't give me joy. And you know what's funny is the comparison game, I think, is where we get killed.
Oh, agreed.
So Matt has a nice house, but it is not as nice as the houses of the people he hangs around with.
Sure.
Right. It is nicer than my house. But my house is nicer than somebody else's house.
Sure.
It's that other person's house is nicer than somebody else. See, the comparison game is where we get killed.
Agreed.
If our contentment lies
keeping up with the Joneses and not Jesus, then we're going to get caught in this trap where we have to have all this stuff. We have to have the next thing so that people can see us. Now listen, like you and I have talked about this. You could care less what car you drive to some degree. If your car is big enough to hold paintings and it gets you to town back and forth without having to worry about it, you're like, I don't care what it is. If it could be a van with a free candy on the side, or I'm messing with you. Like, I've told Michelle more than once, I'm ready for us to be the minivan family with the doors on both sides. Michelle is the one who's like, no.
Thank you, Michelle. Sorry, Matt Stanley. Like, anyways, yeah. We gave Landry quite a bit of a hard time when they bought that minivan, but you don't care about cars.
No,
I do.
Yeah,
to some degree. Like I'm not gonna you're not gonna see me in a car I can't afford.
Right. Of course,
that's the case.
Yeah.
But I'm also not just gonna drive anything. Right. Personality differences.
Of course.
You can't come to me and say, have my perspective of cars.
No.
I can't go to you and say, have my perspective of cars.
Yeah.
The moment the comparison game or that I become the barometer for everybody else, I think that's where we've screwed up. Instead of saying, have a heart for Jesus, right? Yeah. You can't judge other people's spending. I think what you can do is set parameters for everybody's spending. Like have a kingdom mindset of wealth.
Right.
Have a kingdom mindset of how you spend money.
Right.
And then let that like influence and impact the decisions you make with what you get and what you have.
Yeah. I
know people who have very little who do very badly with the little they have.
Yes.
That could have, I know people who like their families are struggling because the husband's not willing to get a better job because he's lazy.
Yeah.
Like that in my mind is exactly the same thing as the rich dude who's trying to earn wealth on his own. The only difference is it's easier to be the rich guy than the poor guy.
Yeah.
But it's the same heart. It's the same
sluggard.
Discontentment in Jesus.
Yeah. It's super interesting because the sluggard in Proverbs, almost every single comparison that it makes between the sluggard and the diligent is a financial comparison. It's not in any other character. It's a financial comparison. The fields of the diligent look like this. The field of the sluggard looks like this. The sluggard won't even roast his game and put it to his lips. But the righteous, the diligent does it this way, right? So like he's thankful for the food. So almost every comparison between the righteous and the sluggard, or the diligent and the sluggard in Proverbs, is a financial thing. So if you do nothing, you're a sluggard. If you go to the other extreme, right, and it's all about contentment in wealth rather than contentment in Christ, you're the fool who is in your imagination making your wealth your strong tower, naming the lands after yourself, right? So I think that what people sometimes do is they have the knee-jerk reaction to the riches and they throw themselves into poverty, but really all they've done is made themselves lazy.
Yeah.
They're sluggards.
Yeah.
Like, be diligent.
Yeah.
Take care of your flocks, take care of your things, take care of your business so that you have what you need.
It provides for you.
Yeah. And as you pointed out way earlier in the podcast, for your children's children.
Yes.
I've never seen the righteous forsaken, says the king. I've never seen the righteous forsaken, but that he stores up for his children's children. Like he's taking care of their needs.
And side note, I think this is a heart perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a wisdom thing, but I think this is the intent, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a lot less to leave to my children's children than other people, but I'm also going to have a lot more to leave to my children's children than other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Cardano hits the moon, then I'm golden, right? But my point is, like, I think it's a heart issue. I think people do the comparison game with this too. They're like, okay, you started investing when you were like, what, late 30s?
38, yeah.
You're way behind, right? Way behind. But your boys have already started.
Yeah.
They're so far ahead of you.
Yeah.
So even if they are just diligent.
They have more in investments now at 15 and 16 than I did at 40.
Yeah. So if they're just diligent for the rest of their life, here's what I'm saying. All these people, I hear this all the time in financial conversations. They're like, man, I'm just so far behind. Listen, and I'll use you as an example to them. Like, what you've done is you shifted your perspective in your late 30s of recognizing there's a better way to be wise with my money, with a kingdom mindset. And you've started, right? You have started, if you will, gathering like the ant. You have started storing. You're protecting or taking care of your herd. And now, because of that, your boys are going to have something. They're going to have something when you and Michelle are gone.
Yeah.
They will have something, but because you've also taught them to be diligent with the same mindset, that something just becomes something bigger for their children and their children's children. You see what I'm saying? So
teaching them the principles.
Yeah. Honestly, this is not scripture, but I kind of think that is to some degree a bigger wealth than just passing down monetary means, is the perspective of having a kingdom mindset of money and then teaching our children and our children's children how that looks in terms of storing, taking care of the herd, storing wealth, like storing up. It is not about gaining riches. It's not about accolades. It's not about finding contentment in this world. It's about being smart with the tools we have here.
It's Joseph and the 7 years of plenty and then the 7 years of famine, right? Like, he stored up. He was able to provide for all these people because of the wisdom that he had ahead of time.
Israel literally became
a nation
because of that.
Yeah. And so, like, Michelle and I, over the last decade, have probably pulled 50 grand out of investments.
Because you needed it to live.
Because we needed it to live, and we had it.
You took care of your herd.
Yeah. And so what was crazy is the first time we pulled money out, like, we pulled out like 20 grand. So that was the year that we were working on the church, and I wasn't painting as much, and we were in transition with all this stuff.
How did we make it through 2019 and 2020?
Because we pulled 20 grand out of our investments. But at that point, we only had like 45 grand in investments. It hurt so much to pull that out, right?
Because it's almost half.
Yeah. And we might have been a little bit higher than that, but it wasn't a lot higher than that. And it hurt badly, but we made it. Like, we had it there to do that, you know? And so just being able to not put our confidence in the money, but put our confidence in the Lord. And so one of the things that I highly recommend to dads and moms, if you're making the paychecks too, or however that's working in your family, I'm not trying to be sexist, but in our family, like, I teach, but for a few years there, between teaching and preaching, art was the thing that supported us. And so every time I would sell a painting, we would get the family together and we would thank God for his provision every time. And then like, I still do that, even though now the church pays my salary. Anytime I still sell a painting, we get the family together and thank God for it. Well, 2 weeks ago today, our dryer caught on fire. And then the next day, Riker had a dentist appointment, and it was because he's not at the kids' dentist anymore. So he's at the new dentist, and they did x-rays and all this stuff. So it was nearly $400. And then the next day, Michelle had a dentist appointment. That was nearly $700. And then Asher's dual credit classes were due. So that was $300. And then Asher had his establishment appointment for the new dentist, which is another $400.
You guys got to spread this crap out.
Dude, it all hit within 10 days.
We actually do that with the dentist. Like, we tell them, like, we got to, like, I have to plan them like where there's like 2 months in between.
Yes. Yeah, it was brutal. And so it was like, everything was like $2,800. And it was just like, oh. And so I had about a 10-minute moment of panic, and I was like, no, we're okay. We're fine. When has God not met our needs? Well, what made me sad is one of my sons, Riker, he said, man, he goes, I cost us a lot of money today. And I was like, no, dude, don't sweat it. Like, you got to go to the dentist. It's okay. Even though I never go to the dentist. But I was like, you got to go to the dentist. It's good. We're taking care of your teeth. It's fine. And then Michelle was like, oh man, my teeth are so expensive. And I'm like, it's okay.
You're like, yeah, babe.
Yeah. I was like, it's okay. We're fine. And I was like, I'll push off going to the dentist until next year. It's already been a decade. What's another year? And so I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. Well, the next day, so we're all praying as a family, like, God, we know that you're trustworthy. The next day, somebody calls me and says, hey, we've been wanting to send your family a little bit of money. And it was what we needed.
That's fantastic.
And we had a little bit extra. And so we were like, who can we be generous to? Like, we've paid what we needed to. Who can we be generous to? And there were some people that had a need that we knew about. And so Michelle and I wrote them a little note. And my boys go, when are you doing that? When are you giving it to them? And we told them, they're like, can we go? And I was like, yeah. And so they wanted to be party to blessing this family, right? Well, a few days later, Michelle had dinner with some ladies from the church. So the boys and I went and got dinner. We got steaks, and we're sitting there, and we're talking through it all. And Riker just said, he goes, it's really amazing to me that right when everything went crazy last week, he goes, right then, like, God sent us money. Like, we didn't even have to ask for it. Like, it's just there. He goes, and I was like, what does that teach you? And he goes, God's our provider. And I've been trying to instill that in our boys since they were really little, so that our boys won't have the same headache that you and I have had trying to remind ourselves that God's the provider.
I know.
Because it took me freaking 20 years to figure that out. 20 years.
I don't think that's most people's mindset.
Yeah, that God's provider.
I hope that that's an encouragement for people, because I don't think that's most people's mindset. I think they still think that they're the provider. And by no means is my implication that you stop like working, or you stop like figuring it out. I think the shift for us has been a heart issue where we're not trusting in our own abilities. We're trusting in God. Well, you're still going to paint.
Yeah,
You're still gonna do. I mean, I don't know what people think. I don't know what people think we make at the church. I make $10 million. I don't know how much you make. I'm just kidding.
Oh man, you got a raise. That's nice. I make twice that.
We make below the median household income in the U.S. I'll just say that, right? So we're not. When you say we're getting a salary, like you're great. Like you're doing fine, but you're not making a ton of money, right? There's not a lot of extra on there. So this is you. You're not saying, well, I'm never gonna paint. I'm just gonna like.
I'm not saying I've finally learned to trust the Lord because I have everything. Like,
right. Which
is not contentment in God. It's contentment in your wealth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard conversation, which is why I always say I think it's a heart issue rather than a circumstance issue.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I do think it can be like seen by how you actually spend your money.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys had some extra from what someone gave you. And so what did you do? You found a place to be generous. That's the heart is how can I glorify Jesus with everything I have?
Yeah.
Including my money.
Well, it's the mindset. Oh, I forgot to finish this thought earlier. Those of you, like, when you get your paycheck, it doesn't hurt to sit down with your family and say, hey, we got paid today. It's our regular paycheck. We just want to thank God for providing for us. Because the alternative is, oh, we have the money we need because I have the job I need.
Can I change that?
Yeah, please.
I'm not sure I want to limit God to a paycheck. I think what you should do is like, let it be not just when things come in. I think it should be consistent.
Agreed.
God, thank you that you're our provider.
Yeah.
And then when the paycheck comes or when the extra stuff comes, thank him for it. Because I think if my kid's perspective is that it's tied to when things come in, that they're going to assume if it doesn't come in, God's not the provider.
I like it. What I was trying to correct is the mindset that people think, well, I worked for this paycheck.
Oh, I gotcha.
I'm the provider. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I think so I'm shifting it. I think you're shifting it a step further. But I'm trying to shift the perspective away from self-reliance.
Yep. I got you.
Because you're in a car wreck tomorrow and now you can't go to work or you can't do this or you can't do that. And now you're thrown into worry again. But if you train yourself as the adult, even the paycheck I'm bringing home once a month or twice a month or whatever is God's provision for me. And then begin to shape that for your family. To your point, I agree with you. Make that conversation more regular than just payday.
God's our provider, period. Yeah. I think no matter what anybody thinks about Dave Ramsey, a lot of people hate his personality, hate his brashness. I think it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave Ramsey, when he quotes Proverbs, does a really good job. When he quotes other texts, it's pretty awful. I don't know how many times I've done.
He's a good
peace.
wisdom teacher.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of what you think about him, listen, the principle of financial peace, I think, is what people are missing. It's in the name, financial peace.
P-E-A-C-E, not
Not
P-I-E.
P-I-E-C-E. I do love Reese's Pieces, though.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are Reese's Pieces for me, too. Anyways, but no matter what you think about him, there's some wisdom. He's actually, the process he's laying out is actually the wisdom of the scriptures. And I think it's what people are missing. They're arguing with Dave on should I pay off debt this way or not? Look, if you don't like his debt snowball payoff system, fine, do it a different way.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't change the fact that there's all this wisdom in the scripture that says you shouldn't be slave to somebody else in terms of borrowing money.
Right.
I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I don't think it's a sin issue. I think it's a wisdom issue.
Agreed.
I don't think it's wrong for you to be it. I don't think it's wrong for you to buy the $100,000 car that you took out a big loan on. I just think it's stupid.
Yes.
This is Micah saying that, right?
Yeah.
I think there's some wisdom in this. And I think.
And as you've already said, the borrower is
slave to the lender, right?
Yeah.
This is where it's shifted for me. I have been having the conversation for so long about what's the best way to gain wealth that I haven't been having the conversation of what's the best way to have peace. Does that make sense? And that's me having done financial peace forever. Not recognizing I've been after something that is contrary to the name of the thing I've been walking people through is peace. And that's what people are arguing about, the wealth rather than arguing about the peace.
Right.
You cannot argue against the scripture in terms of the peace.
No.
There's no debate here.
Yeah. If you're in a lot of debt, you owe all your money to everybody else. That's not a place where you can be at peace.
There's no peace. It's literally just anxiety.
Yeah.
It's just anxiety.
Yeah.
And you can come at me. I can guarantee, I can tell you, I can prove to you that it's nothing but anxiety.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying debt is right or wrong. I think it's wise and unwise.
Right.
And I think where people miss it in this conversation is they're so bent on being right and justifying their particular situation. Well, I needed this, right? Or I had to have this. Listen, I think there are certain circumstances that dictate that, but the majority of the time, no, right?
Right.
The reason I still have credit cards that I use, I've never had a credit card debt, but I think Dave Ramsey's right. The reason that they don't like credit cards is because people tend to spend more money than if they don't have the credit card. And I think that's even probably the case. I can show how that's the case in my life. So I'm not innately. I don't think it's wrong to have a credit card, but I do think that there's wisdom in what they're saying. This is what I'm trying to get people to is everybody's like, I like Dave Ramsey or I don't like Dave Ramsey. And here's what I find. There's Dave Ramsey people who are belligerent about their system and nobody wants to be part of their life because they just make you feel guilty over every single purchase you have.
Sure.
There's the people who hate Dave Ramsey and they just spend willy-nilly on anything they want, but they're like, screw you, Dave Ramsey. Which funny, Alex and Jordan were talking about how Alex accidentally called him Bill Ramsey one time. So then Jordan now will joke, like if they ever have to put something on the credit card, he'll be like, well, Bill Ramsey would be really proud of you in that. It's like the doppelganger or the opposite of Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
But I think that
Bizarro Ramsey.
It's
the opposite.
We need to do, Pierce, we need to do a YouTube series where we would dress Ryan up like the doppelganger and he gives like really bad financial advice to people.
Yeah, please.
Here's my point in all saying that is people are so caught up in the conversation about Dave Ramsey, they've missed the scripture.
Yeah.
They've missed the kingdom mindset. They're arguing about a system rather than recognizing where their heart is.
Right.
And I think that's what I see in this culture now is that you get on social media and you see people who have all this stuff, or even I see, I looked up was watching some guys on some golf exercises for disc golf, like strengthening my back, get my swing better. Well, now it's like my Instagram feed is like literally just a bunch of jack dudes doing like kettlebell workouts. You can't say there's not part of you that's like, dude, look, like I could look like that. Yeah. That's what social media does. Right. Oh, look at the stuff they have. Oh, look at those ladies that are homesteading. Yeah. Look at the house those people have. Look at the cars. It's keeping up with the Joneses every time you open your phone. Yeah. And what it does is it draws your heart away from Jesus. Yep. You and I, Ryan, Pierce won't say it either. We'll never say we think wealth is wrong. Right. What we will say is we think that finding your contentment in something other than Jesus is wrong.
Right.
Because it never
100%.
produces peace and never produces contentment. All it produces is anxiety, and worst case, and the worst thing that happens is you are presenting a picture that is not representative of Jesus. It's not representative of the gospel. It's not representative of a life that relies on Jesus and nothing else.
Yeah, for sure.
So build the wealth, but don't set your heart on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people miss is like, have the nice stuff, but don't let your heart be set on it.
Right.
If it goes away, it goes away.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's literally stuff that you don't get to take with you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So enjoy it. Like let money be a tool, but not your God.
Yeah.
Not your master.
Yep.
And I think probably most of the people listening to this podcast, it is.
Yeah. Well, and just remember that money is not the root of evil. It's the love of money. It's the person's heart,
Where your
not
heart
the
is.
money itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe a simpler view would be that. Thanks for Pierce not being here and asking what's a simpler view. I think let your heart be a heart for Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that saves you from all the heartache of finding your heart resting in something else like the love of money.
Yeah, for sure. Love it.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening, Pierce. This is weird doing an outro because Pierce isn't here. Has Pierce ever not been part of a podcast?
I don't think so.
This is the first time we've ever done just us two.
Maybe there's been one other
I feel
time.
like you and Pierce recorded one time without me.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyways,
I don't remember.
It feels weird. So anyways, Pierce and Hannah just had a baby, so he'll be gone for this week and next week, but be praying for them, praying for little Eleanor. She's precious. And then hope you guys have a fantastic week. And as always, keep Christ as core. What could be simpler than that? We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.